So just come down onto your hands and your knees. Try to spread your fingers nice and wide, knees under hips, and just take maybe 10 breaths and experiment with a little bit of movement in your body this morning. So if you're not quite sure where to start, you can always start with some cat-cows and just kind of let things morph from there. But encourage you to just be unique, listen to your own body. So close your eyes and try not to be, carried away by anybody else's movement choices, and instead just move your body. So if you're feeling a little bit stiff around the neck, maybe you let your head hang or lengthen the back of the neck a bit. If it's the spine, the low back feels a little bit stiff, a little bit more movement around the hips, maybe swing and circling. If your legs are feeling a little bit tight, you can always take a few breaths in downward dog, tucking the toes. Personally, I always like to tuck my toes just a little bit anyway and just get that little bit of a stretch in through the soles of the feet. If you tend to wear shoes a lot of times that area of the body can be a little bit tight. Let's take just a couple more breaths. Again, just really kind of check into it this morning, see where your body is at, see how everything's feeling. And then as you're ready, no rush at all. If you're working on some good stuff, keep moving, but eventually you're going to start to make your way into a comfortable seat. So we're going to make our way into Sukhasana, sitting up onto the edge of your folded blanket. If your hips or your low back do feel a little bit stiff, sitting on something even higher. So the higher the thing you sit on, the more accommodating that tends to be around the hips and the low back, especially if you feel like your knees are higher than your hips, or again, you just feel like you need to slouch that low back. Let that low back nice and long. And let's start with our right leg crossed in front. So close to the edge of your blanket, we'll take that right leg in front. And then just give yourself a couple breaths. Try to get rooted down here pretty evenly through both of your sit bones. So take a moment and close the eyes and just feel what's going on with these points of contact here. So if you feel like you're leaning to one side, if you feel like one sit bone's a little bit heavier or lighter than the other, so you can focus some attention, and sometimes that just involves a little adjustment, a little movement to try to get things leveled out a bit. And then let your hands come to rest somewhere onto your legs. So when we let the arms dangle, it tends to give us a little bit of a rounded upper back or just put some strain on our shoulders. So hands rest so that you can really shrug those shoulders back and down. And then just take a moment to scan through your body. So check in with the areas first that you tend to hold tension. So if you're somebody who clenches the jaw, if you're somebody who tends to have, your shoulders riding up towards your ears, tends to make fists with the hands, check in with some of those areas first, but see if overall you can balance out feeling just strong and grounded in your seat, but at the same time, really natural in your body. Your breath has an ease to it. You're able to take the deepest possible breaths that you can without feeling tightness or constriction regarding the breath. And the more settled your body becomes, allow that breath to become even deeper. So as you settle into your breathing this morning, as the body comes more towards stillness, let that breath really take over. So full awareness, full focus given to your breathing. Try to feel it, really experience it in your body, the breath being something that's with us always, but we so rarely really pay attention to it. And just letting this breath have a calming effect on the mind. So as we focus more on our breathing, we typically have a little less focus to give to our thoughts. And then let's take our arms out by our side, spread your fingers, shrug those shoulders back and down. Just a couple simple rounds of sun breath. As you inhale, you're going to sweep those hands up overhead. Let the palms briefly come to touch, and then exhale, sweep the arms back down by your side, turning the palms to face forward. Now, if it works for your head and your neck, you're going to inhale and slowly start to lift the gaze so that you're looking up to your fingertips at the very top. And then as you exhale, a slow nod the opposite way. You're going to slowly begin to tuck the chin so that you're looking down towards your lap when your hands come by your side. So take a few more cycles at your own pace. I'm not going to try to dictate the length of your breath for you. I want you to make it just as slow and luxurious as you can. So take your sweet time. And again, just that super slow nod of the head while you go. If that is too much on your neck, it might be just a little mini nod. Let's take about 2 more breaths. Whenever you finish that next inhale, we'll be looking up with the palms touching above the head. We're going to bring the hands into the heart space this time, so there's no rush at all. But as you exhale, land your hands into your heart. Close the eyes just softly and take a moment for intentions. This is acknowledging what it is that may have brought you to your mat this morning, however, profound or routine that might be. Just acknowledge anything that you're hoping to gain from your practice this morning. Nice big breath in. Seal these intentions into place. Big sigh. Release the breath. From here, we'll bring the hands down. We've got that right leg crossed in front. Let's open the right leg out to side. So like a half straddle with the right leg. Now, if this puts any strain or pressure on your left knee, tuck something underneath. You can take a block, a blanket, but make sure you're close to the edge here of that blanket. Nice big breath in. Let's sit tall. So I want you to really, again, feel both sit bones anchored. And as you exhale, you're going to turn towards your leg. Keep it relaxed. No need to point or flex. Hinge forward a bit and then start to just fold forward over that straight leg. So you do, as you want to come forward here, you do want to keep that left sit bone heavy. Try to stay fairly relaxed around the upper back and shoulders. And breathe. So if you start to notice the breath fading, not uncommon when we get a little bit slouchy. Just see if you can still continue to breathe just fully and deeply. We'll take about 5 more big breaths here. So again, just really yin, really passive, really easy. We're not looking to put a whole lot of effort or energy into this. It's a little bit more of that softness, that little bit of a slump. Just feel a gentle stretch down the back of your leg. And if it feels a whole lot more than gentle, back off a bit. Let's take 1 more big breath. And then on your next inhale, walk the hands in, roll yourself back up to that tall seat. And we're just going to switch the legs. So take that left leg out now, fold the right leg in. If you feel strain on the knee, prop it up, root down, ground down through your sit bones. Let's take a breath in, lift the chest, sit tall, and breath out, turn, little tilt like you're trying to touch your belly onto your thigh, and then just let yourself go. Again, if it feels okay to get a little slouchy in that upper back, completely fine. Try to keep your left leg relaxed, not active. If you notice your right sit bone lifting up off whatever you're sitting on, see if you can plug it back down. And breathe. Take about 3 more big breaths. Again, jaw just nice and relaxed. Breath strong and steady. 1 more big breath. And then on your next inhale, let's walk the hands in, roll yourself back up. And now with that left leg out, we're going to fold that left leg out in front. Again, root down, try to get pretty situated here in your body if you need to make a little shift, adjustment, wiggle, whatever the case might be. And then give a couple rolls of your neck and your head here. So being in that forward fold, a lot of times we'll put a little pressure on the neck. So take a few very conscious rolls, and that can be ear to ear, half circles, or full circles if your neck allows for that. But conscious, so stop at any points where you feel a good pull and just take a deep breath. See if you can release some of that tension. And then at some point, do be sure to switch directions. Let's take another big breath. And sitting up nice and tall, let's inhale, reach those hands above the head once again. And this time we're going to interlace the fingers together, and exhale, bring that fist down to your heart. So a little release here for the wrists. Sort of soften the shoulders, point your knuckles to aim forward. And we're just going to take some little like infinity signs, little sideways 8s here with the hands. You want to try to keep that movement in the wrist joint, so it's not the whole arm. It's really just the wrist. And once your brain kind of figures out what we're doing, you can speed it up and go a little quicker. So notice any little sounds, any sensations. If you spend a lot of time at a computer, this is a great one to throw in periodically. And then challenge your brain by switching directions. Go the opposite way. And then ask yourself, why is this so hard? And again, once you catch on, you can speed it up a little bit. And go ahead and release. Just a nice big shake out of the hands. Let's take your biggest breath in. And exhale. Just let it go. From here, we'll come forward back onto all fours once again. So you can keep that blanket nearby. We're going to do a little bit more work into the spine and the hips here before we make our way slowly to our feet. So keep that blanket nearby, but just give yourself a couple little rolls and wiggles here. We are going to be coming down just briefly onto the belly into a Sphinx pose. So once you've kind of limbered up a little bit, come down onto your elbows and your forearms here. Set your pelvis down. We're only going to be here for a few breaths, and then we're going to add on an optional shoulder stretch. So elbows under shoulders, unless this is a little bit too intense, walk your elbows further forward. Try to widen your feet wider than your hips. Rather than the heels rolling in, let the heels drop open. Try to feel like you're lifting a little bit through the chest. Let's take just one more breath here. And then you're going to pick up your left hand, set your left hand behind your right elbow. Pick up your right hand, set it in front of your left elbow. Now, if you have any shoulder injuries, you're going to take this really, really gently, so past or present. But you're going to start to just kind of awkwardly creep your elbows apart. So the further apart your hands crawl from one another, the more you're going to feel around the shoulder. So you can stay fairly upright, or you can walk those hands way out as far as you can. And if you're still wanting a little bit more, and again, your shoulders are healthy, you can start to kind of drop the head, let your chin rest onto your top arm. I'm just going to be here for a few breaths. You can always use some other sort of propping, a block or something underneath the head, but just try to let yourself kind of release down into this here. Take about 3 more big breaths. You should feel a little bit of space here in between the shoulder blades. One more breath. And then on your inhale, lift your head back up, slide your right elbow and then your left elbow out. And we're just going to switch. So this time your right hand comes behind your left elbow. Your left hand comes in front of your right elbow, and could be way different on this side. So don't just automatically drop into where you were last time. Take it slow. Start to slowly crawl the hands apart. You might find this side a little bit easier on your body. You might find this side a little more challenging on your body. So stop where you need to. Again, anywhere from having the head pretty high off the floor all the way to having your head resting on your arm. And breathe. And just a couple more big breaths. And the next inhale, lift the head, undo the arms, and this time just stack your hands, rest your forehead to your hands. You can lift your feet for a little windshield wiper here. Let's release that low back. Take your deepest breath. And then releasing the feet back down. We're going to take a few breaths here in crocodile, moving into the hips a bit more. So you're going to find that right leg and start to pull that right leg forward like a little half frog. So your right knee is going to be roughly in the same plane as your as your right hip. And now having that floor underneath your knee, this is where that blanket can be really nice. So if you're on a hard surface, tuck the blanket under your knee for a little padding. You want to make sure it's not super thick so that we're not necessarily lifting the knee a whole lot, but just enough for some cushioning. Especially if you have bonier knees, it can be really uncomfortable to have it on the floor. So cushion if needed. And then a few options. You can either keep your forehead onto your stacked hands. If you'd like to involve the neck a little bit more, you can take your arms out to a T, put your left ear towards the floor so you're looking in the same direction as that right knee. If you find that to be a little bit too much, again, you can always come back and just stack your hands. But I really want the feeling here to be splot. It's like you just kind of splotted down onto the floor. You're not pushing, you're not pulling, you're not really, quote unquote, doing anything. You have just sort of melted into the floor here. Take about another 5 big breaths, just let gravity do the work. Again, you're not trying to force that right hip down. Take one more big breath. And then As you're ready, you're going to slide that right leg back. Bring your right leg back to be in line with your left. And then slowly start to pull that left knee forward. So just moving into the opposite side. Your left knee is going to come now roughly in line with your left hip. Switch your blanket for padding if you're using it. Consider either head to hands, or you can once again take your arms out nice and wide. This time your right cheek down towards the floor and just melt down in. It can be a little challenging to take really deep breaths when we're on our bellies like this. So see how strong you can keep your breath. Let's take another 2 big breaths. And then on your next inhale, slide that left leg back. Bring your hands down under your shoulders. We're going to tuck our chin towards our chest. Squeeze the belly and then come to all fours as you exhale. Push down into your hands. Begin to lift up. We are going to come into child's pose for a few breaths to release that low back, but take a little movement first. Just reset your spine. Make sure everything's in a good place. And then whenever you're ready, you can walk the knees a little bit wider apart. Drop hips to heels, drop head to floor. Take any support you need. So if you'd like to use a blanket between the hips and the heels, or stack your hands under your head, do whatever you need to do there. Let's take about 6 to 8 big breaths. So just give yourself a little time to melt in here. Really get, after that bit of back bending we did, get some good space, some good length around your low back. Again, just nice and heavy. Melt in. Let's take one more full breath. And as you inhale next, begin to rise. First, back to all fours. We're going to be coming into down dog, but do take a moment on the hands and knees if you like. Kind of roll things out. And whenever you're ready for dog, you're just going to tuck your toes, take your hips nice and high. Peek back at your feet to make sure they're at least hips width distance apart. See how much you can push into your hands. So spread your fingers good and wide here. Really try to feel each knuckle, the full length of each finger actually touching the floor, and then start to pedal your feet. Start to wag your tail, walk it out. Lift and lower your heels, bend and straighten your knees. Let's take a couple more breaths. And then just nice and slow, start to crawl your feet forward. We're going to come up towards the top of your mat in a forward fold. Your knees pretty bent, especially your first round here, first standing forward fold. Err on the side of nice and bent. Let's keep them really passive. Let your upper body sort of droop, sort of dangle. You can rock and sway, anything at all that appeals to your body. Great opportunity to get a little movement around the head if your neck is feeling tight. Let's take another breath. And then as you next inhale, take it up halfway. Lengthen here, find a long spine. And exhale, bow back in, fold back into that, just release here. And inhale this time up all the way. Sweep your hands, push down firmly through your feet. Once you feel the hands connect, we'll exhale, land the hands at your heart and just pause, take a couple breaths. If you're comfortable closing the eyes, close your eyes and just feel the connection of the soles of your feet onto your mat. See if you can acknowledge the breath once again. So really begin to feel the breath again. Feel when you have your hands in that heart space, when you inhale, how the rib cage puffs and expands, presses the hands outward just slightly. And as you exhale, the opposite. Breathe deeply enough to actually feel that movement here. And then bringing the hands by your side. Let's inhale, circle the arms above the head. And then dive forward on exhale, bending the knees enough to protect that low back. Let yourself drop in. Inhale, rise halfway. Lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, take it back to standing. Push down, sweep the arms above the head. And exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, lift. And exhale, dive forward. Inhale, halfway, rise here. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stand tall, push down, and again, lift and reach. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, rise. Exhale, bow. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, bend your knees enough to touch the floor, spread your fingers, and step back into a plank. Pause for a few big breaths. Option is always there to lower your knees. So you find what works best for you, but try to expand a little bit through that upper back, unlock your elbows, push a bit through the hamstrings to the back of the legs so your legs working too. Take another big breath in. And then down dog. As you exhale, float the hips. Bring it forward to plank again as you inhale, lifting the heels, rocking forward, dropping the hips. And exhale, push it back to plank or to down dog. One more time as you inhale back to plank, rock forward, strong core. Exhale, send it back, downward facing dog. Pause in your dog, take the deepest breath in you can. Big deep breath out here. Let it all go. And then on your next inhale, lift your heels both really high off the floor, bend your knees a little bit. Look up at your hands and then feet to hands as you exhale. You can step, you can walk, you can jump forward lightly. Whatever works, spread your toes wide and inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, now rise, stand tall. Push down through your feet and lift the arms. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, rise again. And exhale, dive forward. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, now the right leg back. Take a long step back, lower the knee onto the mat. And then as you inhale, sweep the arms forward, lifting the chest right into that low lunge. Exhale into plank, circle your hands back down to the mat. Take your left foot back and pause. Nice big breath in. Exhale, hips high, coming into downward dog. Inhale, lift your left leg, kick firmly through that heel. And then step that left foot forward as you exhale, lowering once again onto that right knee. We'll inhale, sweep the arms up. And exhale, forward fold, both of your hands down, both of your feet back to the top of your mat. Inhale at halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, now stand tall, anchor down, lift up. And exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, rise. And exhale, bow forward. Inhale, halfway. And now left leg back. As you exhale, step long, lower your left knee down onto the mat and inhale, take the hands overhead. Exhale, plank, both hands down, both feet back. And then just pause here to inhale. Take a strong breath in. Exhale, downward dog. Inhale, now your right leg high. Actively push through the heel. Exhale, step forward back to your lunge, left knee on the mat. And inhale, take it up. Hands reach above the head. Exhale, forward fold, hands down. Let's step back up, both feet forward. Spread all of your toes and inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold back in. Inhale, now stand tall. Take those hands right up above the head. And then circle the hands to your hips as you exhale and just pause. Shrug those shoulders back a little bit. See if you can stand tall, spread the weight evenly through both of your feet. And then a big breath in, come to your right big toe. Make sure you're not popping that left hip out. You can stay here or bring your right knee out to hip height here. Try to make sure we haven't automatically stiffened up so that left knee stays soft. Rather than holding the breath, we try to encourage just a nice steady breath here. You can just shrug those shoulders back, take another breath in your Ekapada, your one-legged Tadasana. And then you can either stay here or inhale, take your hands up above the head. Pause here for another big breath in. And then exhale, hands to heart, step that right foot back. We're gonna come right to warrior two. So pivot that heel to the mat and inhale, reach the arms out long. So feet typically about as wide apart as your hands here. So to settle the shoulders just a little bit, stretch the arms out nice and long. So you can get just a little heavier into your left pinky toe than your big toe so that we try to keep the knee from wobbling inward. Take another breath in. And then as you exhale, bring your hands behind your back. See if just for a moment you can clasp your opposite elbows, lift the chest and just pause. Tiny beginning of a back bend here. See if you can, again, just really feel the top of those arms rolling back and in. Take one more big breath. And then releasing the arms, we'll inhale, reverse. Now we get that little side bend, reaching that left arm up and back, staying super low into that front knee. So do keep a good bend into that front knee. Take one more of your biggest breaths in. And then cartwheel the hands down as you exhale, lift your back heel right off the floor and lower that back knee onto the mat. Now back toes can be tucked or untucked. We'll inhale, rise up into that low lunge once again. This time as you exhale, just drop the hands a little bit wider, bend your elbows a touch. Rather than just bending, pull them back just a little bit as well so that you're getting into the front of the chest without really altering the shape of your spine. Continue to spread those front toes. Just set the gaze. Take another big breath in. And then fingertips down on exhale. Push your hips back into a half split and get nice and long through that left leg. Now, blocks can always be really handy here. If you don't have a block, you can always take that same blanket and just fold it thickly enough to get your hands higher off the floor. Try to feel your hips squaring. So the tendency is for the hips to pop off to the side a little bit when we do this, but keep them fairly square. And then you can start to play a little bit with what happens if you point your toes as opposed to flex. What if you drop your pinky toe or your big toe a little bit heavier? So obviously if this doesn't feel good on your knee or your ankle, please opt out. But otherwise, just see how changing the direction that you're pointing your foot can affect what you're feeling in your body here. Let's take just a couple more big breaths. And then your next inhale back to lunge, sink low again, drop the hips and sweep those hands up above the head. Exhale, forward fold, both of your hands on your mat. That right foot now moves up next to your left. Widen into your toes and inhale halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, we now stand tall, push down and reach. Long stretch to the arms. Hands back to your hips as you exhale. Just pause, soften the knees a little bit, engage the core. Take a moment to find your drishti, so simply allowing your eyes to rest at one point, something that's not moving. Spread the weight a little bit into that right foot and then inhale as you lift your left heel off the ground. Make sure that right hip stays in alignment here. Maybe that left knee up to hip height. Again, no panic, just breathe. Keep the breath as steady as you can. Know that it's okay to wobble. It's actually not a bad thing at all. Just teach your body how to respond and how to catch itself. You can either stay or again, inhale, reach those hands up above the head. We'll take one more big breath in. And then hands to heart as you exhale, step long, step back here for warrior two. Drop that back heel, big bend to knee and inhale, reach the arms about the same height as your shoulders. Shrug those shoulders back and down just a touch. Spread nice and wide into your front toes and breathe. Find the space to really expand that breath in your body. Take another breath in. And as you exhale, once again, you can take your hands either to grab your opposite elbows, shrug your shoulders back, or this time, if you'd like to try a reverse prayer, You can bring your hands together as you would in prayer behind the back. If that's too much, again, just grab your elbows, shrug your shoulders back. Get that little lift to the chest. Take another deep breath. Then as you unravel the arms, we'll inhale, reverse. Take that right arm, big reach. Pause here for a breath, just letting that left arm dangle. Really, really open here to that right side. One more big breath in. And then exhale, bring it down all the way. Lift that back heel. Drop your back knee. And as you inhale into that half split, walk the hands and the hips back. Consider using some sort of prop just to lift the arms. What that really does, doesn't take anything away from our legs whatsoever. It just keeps our spine a little bit safer. And breathe. Once you're there and you feel like your hips are still pretty square, you can start to move that right foot, that right ankle. Just again, experiment. Notice how the stretch changes. Let it feel good. One more of your biggest breaths. And then rebend the knee. Let's inhale, sink the hips. Take those hands up above the head. And just pause here for about 3 big breaths. Hands can be as wide or narrow as you're comfortable with. Try to keep it all pretty neutral. Again, just steady out your gaze. One more big breath in. And then back to your forward fold on exhale, both hands down, both feet right back up, top of your mat. We'll inhale halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, now we rise. Take it all the way up. Long reach to the arms. And then back to your hips as you exhale. Give it a big breath. Loosen everything up. We're going to keep that left foot rooted. And as you inhale, right big toe, square and level out those hips. Right knee to about hip height. Pause here to exhale, feeling your pelvis nice and level. Now you can stay here. Again, you can always keep that toe on the floor, or on an inhale, take your hands overhead. We're going to add an optional twist. So as you exhale, your left hand, so your opposite hand, comes to grab that knee, and your right hand just reaches back behind you. Set your gaze. So if you want a little more challenge, you can turn your head, look towards that back hand, but wherever you look, try not to look around a whole lot. Let's take another big breath. And then wind back to center as you inhale. Let's take both hands above the head. Hands to floor. As you exhale, you're going to step that right foot back all the way and move right into a counter twist. So plug your right hand down and inhale that left hand up towards the ceiling. See if you can drop low into your legs and hips. Wherever you're looking. Again, just make sure your neck agrees. Take another big breath in. And then exhale, lower that left hand. Pivot your body over to the right and take a little release into that left leg. So drop your hips way over to the right, straighten into that left leg. And then you can move a couple times from side to side here, just finding what works. Find a pace, find a depth. Get into those legs a little bit. Another big breath. And then bend both of your knees quite a bit, push your hips back. We're going to rock the weight forward, lift your heels, and then pivot those heels in. More of that goddess stance. As you next inhale, you can take your hands up onto your thighs. Push your hips back a little bit. Feel free to just kind of shift a little bit from side to side, kind of like we were just doing with our hands down, working your way into those hips a bit further. Let's take another big breath. And then push into your feet. We'll inhale, 5-pointed star. Reach those arms out and out and up. And then exhale, back to warrior 2. Pivot that front heel. Turn your toes to face forward. Drop your shoulders. Take about 3 strong breaths here in your warrior 2. So nice long reach through your arms. Keep that breath as strong and steady as you can. One more big breath. And then inhale, reverse again. Take that left arm up and back. Side angle as you exhale. Just the arms, cartwheel forward. Tilt a little bit more into that front hip. Take your right pinky toe and really plug it down into the floor. Right fingertips reach. Left hand stays light. One more full breath. Then inhale it back through reverse, getting that little stretch in through the left side. And this time exhale right into a forward fold. Cartwheel your hands down, lift your back heel and step both feet forward, softening the knees, dropping the head. Take another big breath. And then on that next inhale, halfway lift, long spine. Exhale, fold it in. And inhale, rise right back up to standing, sweeping long through the arms. Exhale, return hands to hips. Pause, soften. Set your gaze, find your breath. We're going to keep the weight into that right foot this time and take your time. There's no rush. Take your time moving into these balance poses. Start by lifting onto the left big toe, squaring up those hips, softening the right knee. And again, maybe knee comes to hip height. You can stay here. You can inhale, hands overhead. You can stay here. You can exhale, twist to your left. So use that right hand to support the bent knee. Your left hand just reaches back. Chest stays tall. Keep your breath as strong and as steady as you can here. Another breath. We'll inhale our way back through center, reaching both hands to sky, and take a long step back on exhale. Land that foot lightly, both hands plug to the floor. Sink your hips and inhale your right hand up to the sky. Good, keep that breath strong. Take another inhale. And exhale, bring the hand down. Again, we're gonna pivot, release that right leg now by sinking low into that left side. And then at your own pace, you can continue on a little bit from side to side. Take another big breath. And then coming back to center, lift your hips, straighten both legs. Now see if you can turn your toes in just a little bit. It doesn't have to be anything overdone. Just a little bit pigeon-toed here for your wide-legged forward fold. Hands can be on the floor or on your block. And just take a few breaths. Play a little bit with where exactly you land the hands. So again, every body is gonna be a little bit different. Every time you do this pose, it might feel a little bit different. So just play with rocking the weight forward and back in the feet, with walking the hands a little further forward or back. Let's take another breath. And then on your next inhale, perch up onto your fingertips. Bring your hands in line with your heart. Just give everything a moment to settle. Take another breath. Then we're going to start to bend the right knee, turn your right toes to aim forward. And for warrior two, slowly come on up, reach the arms long. Stay here and breathe. Fairly low down into the legs. I want you to feel that engagement, that strength. And then your next inhale, reverse, right hand flips, stretch the right side long. Exhale, extended side angle, cartwheel that torso forward, still keeping the strength here in the core and the side body. So right hand not doing a whole lot. Left side, really long, really active. One more full breath. And then inhale back to reverse, right hand sweeps again. Exhale, cartwheel it down into a plank. So both of your hands come to the floor, that right foot steps back. Again, about 5 breaths in plank. Feel free to drop your knees. You can take your knees down at any point. Otherwise, nice and strong through the core, through the legs, through the shoulders, through the back. Let's take one more big breath in. And then back to dog as you exhale. Feel a little relief around the core. Lift your hips, pedal it out. Take another big breath in. And then down to your knees on exhale, widen your knees. And take, again, a few breaths in child's pose. Come off the hands. You can lift the hands, make some fists, roll out your wrists a couple times. Otherwise, just melt in for about 5 deep breaths. Take another deep breath. And then as you next inhale, lift back up, taking your head up off the floor, coming back to all fours. Knees walk in, give a last little roll of your spine. We are going to be coming down onto our backs from here. So have either a block, or if you don't have a block, you can take that blanket and fold it so it's about the same thickness as a block. So we got a couple inch kind of little lift here. We'll be using that in just a few moments. So have it handy. Come down onto your backs. Yay. Slowly making your way down. Again, make sure that that block or folded blanket is somewhere you can reach it. And just start with your feet on the floor with your knees bent. Let's just take a nice slow rock of the knees, big windshield wiper from side to side. Arms out to T. That's going to help you to ground your shoulders. And then as you find your rhythm, start to move your head in opposition. So if your knees are dropping one way, you're looking the opposite direction. Take another big breath. And then coming back to center, big breath in, full body stretch. Lengthen your arms and your legs. Reach and lengthen that whole body long. Then as you exhale, crawl your feet over to the left. So stay on your back. You're not lifting hips or shoulders, but your feet move to the left. Your right ankle anchors on top of your left ankle, and then you're going to walk your hands over to the left as well so that we really open and stretch into that right side. So you're in sort of a crescent moon type shape. Good. Hands can stack or stay separated. That really doesn't matter. A lot of times if we start to stack the hands, our elbows or our shoulders pop off the floor. You're going to try to keep your elbows and your shoulders grounded. Just really allow the arms to be nice and heavy. So feel that space down your whole right side. And then breathe into that space. See if you can really just expand and feel that movement here through the rib cage. And now that we've been here a few breaths, just check in with the way you have your head positioned. Try to make sure that the way you're positioning your head, it does not bother your neck in any way. Your neck should always feel comfortable, feel pretty neutral, and just breathe. About another 5-ish breaths. One more deep breath. And then inhale it back through center. Ankles unhook, arms stretch long, whole body reaches. And exhale, slowly begin to switch. Watch both of your feet over to the right this time, however far you can comfortably without lifting either hip or shoulder. Same with the hands, walk them over regardless of close together or far apart with the hands, it doesn't matter, just stretch that left side. Comfortable head positioning, you can simply close the eyes, soften the jaw, breathe as deeply as you can. Another big breath. And then inhale back in through center. Again, unhook, unwind, just stretch and reach everything long. Then as you exhale, you can lower the arms by your side, bend your knees and walk the soles of your feet onto the floor. Give yourself once again that windshield wiper of your knees just to reset your low back. We're going to move into a supported bridge pose from here. So again, you've either got that thickly folded blanket or you've got a block, but we're going to push into our feet, lift our hips just enough to slide said prop underneath your sacrum. So you want to take that blanket or block and position it under your sacrum. So right around where the belt would go. We're not trying to put it behind the curve of your low back. We're not trying to put it under your bum. And then the lowest height, maybe the second height, if that's something you're comfortable with. We are going to keep our feet on the floor for now, but we'll be lifting the feet in a few. So just make sure that you're good and supported. If you feel like you need a little bit more stability, you can always walk your feet a bit wider apart. So usually bridge pose, if we're not supported, you always want to keep those feet hips width distance apart. With the block, feel free to take the feet a little bit wider. Arms can reach out to a T, tucking the shoulders. And again, just breathe. Take a few moments, settle into your breathing. Let's take one more big breath. And then again, block, you're probably going to want to have at the lowest height for this. Slowly start to pick one of your feet up towards the ceiling and then the other foot joins it. You may need to readjust a little bit, reposition that block if it does feel like it's still not completely supportive. And then just begin with some movement. So you can scissors your legs, you can pedal, roll and point and flex your ankles. So just take a few breaths, try to move your hips, your knees, your ankles as many ways as you can. And then eventually bring your legs towards stillness. So nothing forced. We're not trying to get stiff or, forbid the legs from moving. We're just not trying to actively move them. So knees are going to be a little bit soft. It's more like a float. Your legs just sort of float. And breathe. I'm going to be here for several rounds of breath. If at any point it becomes bothersome to have that block underneath, just reach down and take it out. Take another big breath in. And as you exhale, knees are going to slowly begin to bend. Now, if you need to get that block out at any point, take it out. Otherwise, just briefly hug your knees to your chest. Give yourself a big squeeze. Take another big breath in. And then as you exhale, feet to floor. If you've still got the block underneath you, push into your feet. Lift your hips. Slowly lower your sacrum back down. And you can pause for a couple breaths, either windshield wiping or just letting the knees knock together, but just give a little release into that low back. Just feel the whole sensation, blood kind of rushing back into the feet. And then your next inhale, knees to chest. Let's grab the knees and hug them in. Take a little squeeze. And now knees over to the left as you exhale. Let's move into a twist. As your knees drop to the left side, your arms reach out to a T, grounding that shoulder, that right shoulder. You can always tuck your blanket or your block or something either under or between the knees if there is a gap. And then lastly, if your neck's okay with it, just a really slow no with the head. So like you're super slow saying no, and then be very deliberate about where you let that head drop into stillness. Take about 3, 4 more big breaths. One more big inhale. And exhale, squeeze the belly, bring your knees back to center, hug those knees back in. Give it a big rock, big squeeze, take an inhale. And then exhale, switch sides. Your knees are gonna roll to the right this time, arms out to T. Again, ground that left shoulder. Consciously position your head, so be aware of what you're doing with your neck. Soften your jaw and take a few more of your biggest breaths. One more big inhale. And again, exhale, strong core. Lift the knees back to center. Hug the knees into your chest. Take a final rock from side to side. Take a big breath in. And then exhale, rise forehead to knees, crunch into that little cannonball. Another big inhale. And exhale, lower gently, feet and heads back to mat. And then starting that final descent into your Shavasana here. So if there is a last pose that you're craving, if there's anything else you'd like to do, any final stretch, reset, maybe it's taking a moment to set some props up in a way that feels supportive to your body. It can be nice to use that rolled blanket back behind the knees. Lay it across the pelvis if you'd like a little extra sense of grounding. But all in all, just do whatever you can to get comfortable, to feel truly at ease in your body, a position that requires little to no effort. We'll take a big breath in together here. Take the deepest inhale you can possibly take. And pause just a moment at the top, hold the breath. Big exhale. Release every single drop, and as you do, now truly giving yourself the space to surrender. So you're no longer trying to control any part of your body, your mind, or your breath. Instead, just settle in and let go. Start to notice your breath, deepen your breath again. And as you do, reawaken, take a few small wiggles and movements of your toes and fingers. Gently rolling out your wrists and your ankles, slowly shake the head no. And inhale, full body stretch. Reach the body long and lengthen. As you exhale, knees bend, hug your knees to your chest, squeeze tight. Take a big breath in. As you exhale, roll over onto whichever side you're most comfortable on, and then pause there to take a breath. Eventually anchoring down into that top hand, start to feel your way up. And just make your way into a comfortable seat. Moving hands into your heart space. Let's close this morning with a final shared breath. Inhaling as the arms sweep overhead. Big circle, big reach, and once those palms touch together, exhale, hands to heart. And thank you all so much for being present here this morning to share your breath, your energy, your practice. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you so much. Guys, have a beautiful weekend. Thanks for coming in. Thank you, online folks, as well. Have a good day.